Welcome to the Driven Not Given podcast, guys. Today I'm going to go ahead and react to the latest Andrew Tate interview with the BBC. Some of the things I'm going to point out in this interview is exactly how biased left-wing media is. And that's all the BBC is, in my opinion. And I think it's pretty clear to see that they have an agenda. And here's the thing. Do I think that Andrew Tate is the best guy in the world? Absolutely not. Do I think he's the worst guy? No, I think we need more men like him. And I think a lot of the things that people see in the media, they don't see the full length content in order to understand what he's really saying. So do I think some of the things that he's saying are misogynist? Yes. Do I agree with everything he says? No. Frankly, I don't agree with about 15% of what he says, but I do agree with 85% of what he says. But this is an interview that we know would go viral when he gave the first interview on this. And you would think that the people that are interviewing him are going to interview him to find out, hey, how was it like being in jail for over 90 days, right? Being wrongfully accused and all these things, but none of that was asked to him. So anyways, we're going to get into that right now. We're going to react to some of the clips in this video. So here's the first clip that we're going to react to. I'm going to go ahead and play this clip, and then I'm going to pause it, and we're going to talk about it.
Have you raped anybody?
Absolutely not.
Have you trafficked anybody?
Absolutely not.
Exploited any women for money?
Absolutely not.
But you have admitted using emotional manipulation to get women to work in the webcam industry for you?
No. We have an open criminal investigation. I am absolutely and utterly sure I'll be found innocent. I know the case better than you. I know it intimately and you don't. I have seen all the criminal files and the evidence against me and you haven't. I know the truth of what happened and you don't. And I'm telling you absolutely and utterly, I've never hurt anybody, that the case that's been put against me is completely and utterly fabricated, and I'm never going to be found guilty of anything. And it's very difficult for me to answer your in-depth questions because we're sitting here inside of the territory of Romania. I'm beholden to the Romanian legal system, and I'm not going to incriminate myself.
The BBC has spoken to somebody since your arrest who says exactly those things, that with you it's all manipulation, there's an ulterior motive to everything you do.
Is this Sophie? Oh, it's Sophie, the fake name, no face. No
I was so intent on wanting to please him and wanting him to be happy that I was just kind of, yeah, okay, do whatever you want.
And what is she accused? Has she accused me of a crime, this imaginary Sophie?
She's making the point that there is
Has she accused me of a crime?
Emotional or psychological manipulation.
I've asked you a question, and I've allowed you into my house.
I'm asking you a question.
Correct. But
Okay, so first thing is, I've been following this story, right? I follow a lot of interesting things, and one of the things is what happened to Andrew Tate. He called that he was going to be arrested. He knew he was going to be arrested. I knew he was going to be arrested because he's spreading a message that is not convenient to what they're trying to push today, which I'm not going to get into yet, but we will get into later. But notice how he asked about this Sophie character. The funny thing is that this Sophie character, how convenient. They're anonymous. They don't show a picture. They never press charges. Notice also when Andrew Tate is asking her, hey, has this person pressed charges against me? She doesn't answer. He asks again, has this person pressed charges against me? She doesn't answer, right? It's completely biased. And I mean, the BBC is just utter BS. You know what I'm saying? They're just not real journalists. There is an agenda when it comes to this. People like Andrew are not good for left-wing media. That's exactly what it is. It's left-wing media. And when I look at Sophie, she looks like the typical, woman who would be a journalist, who's against things like this, who went to school and got indoctrinated and thinks that success, and you're going to see later on, how success is automatically bad, how men are misogynist if they're masculine. It's just complete, ridiculousness. So let's look at the next clip.
correct, but you're not the boss here because I've allowed you into my house.
I'm asking you the questions.
Correctly, and I'm telling you.
You get to decide the answers.
No. We're equal here. I've allowed you into my house. You don't come here with a position of authority. I'm doing you the favor as legacy media, giving you relevance by speaking to you. And I'm telling you now, this Sophie, which the BBC has invented, which there's no face of, nobody knows who she is.
The BBC did not invent her.
Of course not. And because you never invent anything.
Okay, so a couple things to take from there, right? How convenient that the Sophie character is non-existent. They only contacted the BBC. It's a made-up name. There's no picture. They never press charges. When Andrew asks, hey, has this person pressed charges against me? She avoids a question. He asks again, she avoids a question again, right? He asks a question and she tries to be firm. She tries to say, I'm asking the questions here. And he says, no. You're not in a position of authority. We are equals in this situation. I'm going to ask you questions as well. I did you a favor by letting you into my house. And that is absolutely the truth. You know how many news media outlets were trying to get the first interview with him? This interview has millions of views, right? It's all over the place. So here's the deal. He's not the typical soy boy that she's used to, that she met when she was in school, right? That doesn't stand his ground, okay? When I look at this lady doing the interview, she just reminds me of a typical woman who went to school, who has these, radical left-wing views on how things should be and how masculinity is a bad thing. And that's not what it is. So I'm glad that he stood his ground here. Of course, I'm not surprised that he stood his ground here, but he's letting her know, hey, no, you're not in a position of authority. I'm doing you the favor, and he absolutely is doing her the favor. And again, how convenient. Sophie only contacted the BBC, nobody else, never pressed charges, and it's completely anonymous. So when he says this Sophie character that the BBC made up, she says, the BBC did not make up this character. Of course they're going to say they didn't make up the character. Of course they're going to say that. They didn't make up the character, right? Then he says, sure, because you guys never make anything up. They're so full of shit, it's amazing. So let's look at the next clip.
Increased incidents of girls being attacked, of female teachers being harassed.
If that was
by
true,
pupils because of you and your teaching and your influence.
That's absolute garbage. I have never, ever encouraged a student to attack a teacher, male or female, ever. I preach hard work, discipline. I'm an athlete. I preach anti-drug. I preach religion. I preach no alcohol. I preach no knife crime. Every single problem with modern society, I'm against.
But
I'm teaching young men to be disciplined, to be diligent, to listen, to train, to work hard, to be exactly like me. And I'm saying that if men grew up like me, which are hardworking and diligent and some emotional control and stoic, we're going to have a better society, not a worse society. To sit here and say that schools in England, which is a failing nation, which has knife crime going through the roof, violence going through the roof, men's mental health going through the roof, and they're going to all blame me because I appeared on the internet 1 year ago.
You sell an image of success.
Disingenuous. It's disingenuous.
You sell an image of financial success with a Bugatti.
So let's stop there. So here's what he's saying, right? She is talking about false allegations, right? And what is he preaching to the audience? To better yourself. And of course, he does cater to men more, right? If you look at the followers of Kim Kardashian, it's mainly women. Well, actually, it's probably a lot of men too, right? Not because they follow her content, but because they want to look at her pictures, right? But let's say Martha Stewart. Does she have mainly female audience? Of course she does. So this guy is going to have mainly men audience. I have mainly men audience as well, right? So he's talking about bettering themselves, getting in shape, becoming the best version of themselves. He gives men advice saying, hey, listen. And by the way, he does give some advice that I don't agree with, which I'll get into as well. But he's giving the advice of better yourself, work out. If you're depressed, there are things that you could do to not be depressed. I don't subscribe to depression. I do. I'm quoting him, by the way. Excuse me. He says, I don't subscribe to depression. I do subscribe to having days that are not that good, that I don't feel that good, or maybe that I'm a little bit depressed that particular day. He says, go get in the gym. Get in the best shape of your life. Work on yourself. People as a man are not going to respect you or even love you so much unless you contribute. He's telling men to become better, okay? Now, does he say some things, especially when taken out of context, that may seem misogynist? 100%. I'm a Christian man. I have one woman, and I believe that marriage should be between a man and a woman, and you should be faithful, okay? So I don't agree with some of the things that he said, although maybe now that he's Muslim, maybe his views are a little bit different. Maybe they've changed a little bit. I have no idea, right? But here's my question. Why is somebody like him being so attacked because he is telling men to become better, even if they claim and they really believe that he's a misogynist? Let me ask this question. Who is worse for society? Somebody like Andrew Tate or somebody like these pedophiles right now that are trying to groom kids, that are trying to tell kids, hey, listen, you don't have to pick whether you're a boy or girl, even though it's been like that for all human life, right? Since the beginning of time, there's boys, there's girls, there's men, and there's women. And now they're trying to say to kids, hey, listen, you don't have to tell your parents if you want to take puberty blockers. What about these people that are doing drag queen shows for toddlers? I mean, where's the outcry of people complaining about these people? But you know why? Because that is a narrative that they feed. If you notice, you're never going to find a famous movie star that talks against that. You know why? Because the people that run Hollywood, the people that run the media are on that side. It's a bunch of pedophiles. But then you got a guy that's telling people, hey, men, get your ass together. Get your ass in shape. Get into the gym. Make more money. Work harder. Stop complaining. Better yourself, right? When he's telling people like that and he's showing them how to be better with women, how to be better in business, that is a bad guy. You know why? Because one of the things is that he often says, which is very true, he has a big influence over the masculine youth. Why do you think the left-wing radicals are going after all the youth, including the masculine youth? If you notice, and look at one of my episodes, I'm going to tag it here, about how testosterone levels have gone down significantly. If you look at the average man today versus the average man 30 years ago in high school boys, right? Versus now versus 30 years ago. Look at the difference in testosterone levels. It's in everything, even in the foods that they eat. This is an attack on the masculine youth. So somebody like him that became the most Googled man in the world, probably still is the most Googled man in the world, that is talking these things and speaking against us, what he calls the matrix, that is not good for them. That's why he knew, and so many people knew, he's going to be attacked, he's going to be arrested. Then you got left-wing media like the BBC coming over and saying, hey, listen, I'm going to ask you a bunch of loaded questions. We didn't see anything in full context. And you'll see later on in the interview where he tells her, I think her name is Lucy. He says, Lucy, if I go out there and dissect your life and all the videos that you've ever done, okay, I can make you look like a misogynist, which is 100% factual. So let's look at the next clip.
Financial success
correct.
with a Bugatti and a cigar, but it comes with a side order of misogyny.
How does having a Bugatti and a cigar come with misogyny?
I am asking you about things that you have said that have caused major national organizations, including the police, to worry about you by name. That's what I'm asking you about.
It's not what I said.
It's about...
So let's take that short clip here. She says a Bugatti and a Bugatti and a cigar with a side order of misogyny. If you notice, and listen, this is not a knock against school, but this is a fact. If you have friends, or if you are going to a college or a university, or you've got friends that are going to a college or university, 9 out of 10 of them are going to be leftists, not radicals, but people with leftist mindsets. And a lot of people with this mindset, Lucy being included in this, they believe that, for example, I saw an interview with Patrick Bet-David where there was this one Democrat saying, nobody should be as wealthy as you, Patrick. It should be illegal to be as wealthy as you. Well, why is that? That doesn't make any sense. There is an indoctrination camps for socialists, in my opinion, right? So when she proves it right here. She says, you talk about, having a Bugatti and a cigar and it comes with a side order of misogyny. And he asks, how does having a Bugatti and a cigar, how is that misogynist? It's not. But a lot of these people have a victim mindset, right? Like, hey, you shouldn't make so much money. You shouldn't have so much success. See, people that are successful, they look at other people that are successful and they don't hate on them. Instead, they congratulate them. They maybe admire them, or maybe not necessarily admire them, but respect them. And say, hey, I wonder how that person got there. You know what the other people do? They talk bad about them. They make it seem like they're the bad ones. But guess what? If it wasn't for those people, you wouldn't have a job. If it wasn't for these capitalists, you wouldn't have a job. Who do you think owns the school system? Capitalists do, right? So this is a typical mindset of somebody. I guarantee you she's got a whole bunch of years in school. And if I had to guess, she's single. She's not married. And if she is married, I guarantee you that the man that she's married to doesn't look anything like Andrew. Is not masculine like Andrew. If anything, that guy is going to be very similar to the guy that did the little mini documentary of Andrew right before he got busted. If she is married, this is my opinion, this is my guess, that is what her husband looks like, but I would guess that she's not married. I know nothing about her. That would be my guess. Matter of fact, I'm going to do some homework on it. So let's look at the next clip.
When thousands and thousands of people are saying the opposite, well, then I would say
I've presented you with case after case after case, with quote after quote after quote of people who are genuinely concerned about the impact you're having, and you brush it off as if it's nothing.
No, what you have done is come here with an agenda. You've come here with loaded questions. You've come here with things taken out of context. You come here with things that you don't understand are satirical. And then you're going to also sit and say that one woman said that her boyfriend changed when he watched one of your videos. And then I don't know what you expect me to say to that.
Sarcastic, and jokes. No, that's how you explain the comments you make.
For you to sit down.
Would you like to apologize for any of them?
For you to sit down and For you to sit down, it's fine, no, it's fine, it's easy. For you to sit down and say that one woman said that her boyfriend watched an Andrew Tate video and now he won't do the dishes.
Schools.
Or whatever your argument is.
Police.
And that I'm somehow the worst, most dangerous man in the world because I have a car. Is just disingenuous. If you actually watch the things I say, if you actually watch my comments about women, I've done long podcasts for hours long about females, talking about protecting for them, providing for them, how I believe a woman should be treated in a relationship. I've done.
I love how he says, it's fine, it's fine. No, it's easy. I guess he has his attorney there telling her, telling him, that maybe she's out of line or whatever. He's like, it's fine, it's easy. That is one of the things that Andrew teaches, you know that? Being stoic, being calm under pressure. She's clearly trying to press his buttons. She's clearly trying to make him look like, she's trying to get him angry, trying to get him to become disrespectful. And as the interview goes on, you'll notice she keeps getting more and more frustrated, especially at the very end. She just had enough. She couldn't crack the code, right? Again, this is another clip that shows us that she's clearly biased. I mean, nobody would disagree that she's biased. Well, sure, there'll be some crazy people that would disagree. But if you're being completely honest, yes, she comes here with an agenda. So let's look at the next clip.
Her male partner. I'm glad you find that funny.
I find it funny that you're sitting here saying that I've said I'm the most dangerous man in the world, and you believe that's. When did I say that?
I'm asking if you believe it.
No, you said you're the most dangerous man in the world. Is that some kind of proof that I'm dangerous? Am I Dr. Evil now? I'm telling you that it's very upsetting that you're going to sit here and that certain organizations in the world are going to try and pretend that I'm the biggest force of evil on earth when I'm genuinely a force for good. I'm genuinely a force for good. And the reason they're doing this is because of the massive influence I have over the youth. And they don't like that I'm telling the youth to think outside of the matrix and ignore things like the BBC, which come here with loaded questions and false narratives and try and paint innocent people as guilty.
You said.
Okay. Again, we talked about this earlier, right? The massive influence that he has over the masculine youth. And that makes him, quote unquote, a dangerous man. I mean, listen, he is catering to men and women, especially men, who have a mind of their own. They could decide who they want to model, who they want to emulate. Now, I always use this analogy. I use the analogy of the frog getting cooked, right? You put a frog in regular temperature water, right? It moves nothing. It's just chilling. Then you raise the temperature a little bit. And it's starting to sweat a little bit, but it doesn't feel it because it's happening gradually. Then you keep raising it until it's boiling and the frog is cooked, okay? Now, had you put the frog in while it was boiling, it would have jumped right out. But it doesn't. Why? Because it gradually gets there. We have gradually got to the point in the last, 3-4 years. People are accepting so much bullshit these days in the last 3 or 4 years. Why? Because they gradually got there. And it's not even very gradual. We talked about some of these things earlier. We talk about, the pedophilia, the pride, community. I don't have anything against the pride community. I've got some friends that are very good friends that I'm very cool with, that were genuine friends that are gay. Got no problem with that. What I do have a problem with, however, is anybody's beliefs being shoved down people's throats. Imagine if Christians went out there and wanted to force a Christian month. Imagine the outrage. Why do so many things, especially the transgender agenda, especially the pedophilia that's happening, that's clearly happening by some of your favorite celebrities and artists, right? So this is just utter garbage, right? So let's go on to the next one.
Why rich men do it. And we also discussed why women decide to be unfaithful. It's not a gendered argument. We discussed unfaithfulness as a whole. What are the reasons and motivations for men and what are the reasons and motivations for women? Because you have no time to actually, watch my content, because you have no time to actually watch my content at length and understand what I'm saying, you just come here with a small snippet which we provided to you on a piece of paper.
Saying it 3 times doesn't make it true.
No, completely. You don't have a clue what I say or what I talk about. You never watch my content. You have small pieces of paper, small clips on a piece of paper, and you're trying to pretend I've said evil things. And then you're going to say I'm the most dangerous man in the world, which is truly laughable.
Okay, so in that clip again, right? We talked about this a little bit earlier. It's true. There's so many highlighted clips from, again, 3-4 hour long podcasts and then little clips, because we live in a society where everybody wants, that 15 to 60 second video. The attention span in most people is not at what it used to be before. Do you honestly think that Lucy here went out there and watched full episodes to get the entire context? Absolutely not. Because painting him in a good picture, because who the hell knew who the BBC was before this anyways? Hardly anybody. But they cannot, I repeat, they cannot talk good about somebody that's actually doing good with these types of views. These are not the views. Now, if Andrew Tate was saying and promoting some of these things that I mentioned earlier, right? The left-wing ideologies, oh, he'd be fine. If they were to interview him and had such a massive influence, he'd be awesome. But because he's telling men to better themselves, because he's telling men that, hey, listen, think for yourself is one of the biggest messages that he teaches people. That is not good for the powers that be, as he calls it, the matrix, right? So yeah, she's just, again, taking things out of context, short form clip without the entire context. And guess what? Again, anybody can be made out to look bad. So let's go to the next clip.
When you compare women and the authority over women that you believe you should have to having authority over a child or a dog, it's not the same because a woman is a free legal adult.
Correct.
You're equal.
Free legal adult, my equal. But if I had a girlfriend and we were walking home late at night and I said, let's not walk down that area, it's a bad area, I have to protect you if anything happens, I want to take the long way. And she said, no, I have to walk this way, even though it's the most dangerous route, I must.
Then what?
And then I would say, you're welcome to, you could do it, you're a free legal equal, but I'm not going to walk with you and protect you. I think that I should be able to decide the route because I have an obligation. And my obligation as a man is to protect and provide for females. Everything I'm talking about is traditional gender roles, which 10 years ago, less than 10 years ago, would not be considered outlandish, would not be considered crazy, would not be considered dangerous or misogynistic. The world has changed, and a lot of people haven't changed with the world. Please understand there's a lot of women at home watching this right now who like the idea of their man sticking up for them, protecting them, and providing for them. And just because the world has gone crazy and the legacy media has gone crazy, most people at home are still relatively sane. And these are the people who are going to write on the comments that Andrew isn't saying anything that's outlandish.
The world has gone crazy. The legacy media has gone crazy. And just 10 years ago, these views wouldn't be looked at as misogyny. So again, in the full context of the conversation that she's referring to, she only gets the snippet where he says, I decide whether we go or not. I remember one time I had a girlfriend, and she lived in Vegas, and she was wearing a dress that was a little bit too provocative for like a concert that we were going to. And I said, there's no way. It's going to be a lot of drunk men at that concert. There's going to be a lot of rowdy people at that concert. You mix rowdy people with alcohol and a woman that's wearing a dress that's a little bit too provocative, guess what? That spells trouble. What's going to happen? I remember I told her, because she didn't really give me a hard time about it, but she was kind of disappointed that she had to change, right? And I remember saying, if somebody goes out there and is disrespectful to you, am I going to be the one that just stays here with his arms crossed and do nothing? No, I'm going to have to get in there and probably face some problems. So no, I'm not going to go with you to that concert in that dress. Go ahead and dress. Go ahead and change. After I said that to her, you know what she says? She said, okay, sounds good. She went and got dressed, and that was the end of it. There's some people today, especially in the feminist movement, right, that will say that that is misogyny. No, that is not misogyny. And mind you, this was a little bit over 10 years ago. But as he said, he brought up a great point. 10 years ago, a lot of these things were not crazy things. The world has gone crazy, but not everybody in the world has gone crazy with the world. The legacy media has gone crazy, but not all the people have gone with the world. However, there is a lot of sheep that are very influenced by the mainstream media. So yes, this is absolutely true. But she takes one thing that he said, oh, you get to control her. So you say if you guys can't go in that direction, that you guys are not going in that direction. Well, the point that he makes, if she wants to walk down, let's say, for example, the short way is through the alley, he knows that's a bad neighborhood, and going through that alley at night is not a good idea. I'm making an example about the alley, right? It's his right to say, I don't want to go down that alley. And if you want to go down that alley, you go by yourself. My suggestion, I'm calling an audible. The audible is we're going the long way. Because if you go through that alley or that area that is unsafe, it's not the woman that's going to have to stand up to some thugs that may appear. It's going to be the man. It is his duty. Why don't we talk about the fact that it is expected of a man to protect a woman? They don't complain about that. If a war comes out, all of the feminists, guess what? You think the feminists are going to be saying, hey man, let's go to war. No, the feminists are going to say, hey, you know, I know that we're equal, but right now we're not equal. Right now, you guys got to go to war. Hey, there's some guy that broke into the house. You know, so I should go because I'm a feminist. A woman is not going to say that and go out there and defend. Lucy is clearly a feminist, right? But I guarantee you somebody breaks into her house, she's not going to be the one that goes and grabs a gun or grabs a bat or whatever, or some weapon to go and defend the kids, right? If she was married. I have no idea if she is. Again, my guess is that she's not. My guess is that she doesn't have male attention. That's just my opinion, right? It's my guess. So anyways, again, disgusting. So let's keep it moving.
Someone broke into your house, would you want your husband to protect you?
It's not about conservative values or protection. It's what you're demanding in return for that.
Well, I'll give you this. I don't know who your husband is. I don't know if he would stand up to protect you or die for you, but I'll give you this. If someone broke into this house right now and was a homicidal maniac, I would expect me and the other men in this room to stand up and face them while you and the other women in this room could protect yourselves. I would actually believe the men should go and engage the attacker. I believe that. And even though I don't know you, and you've come into my house with a hostile agenda, and you've come here to try and make me look bad, I would still stand up to protect you. I would still stand up to protect you because I believe that's my role as a man.
We just talked about that. And I think you put her in her place. I also want you to take a look at her in the clip. She's uncomfortable she's uncomfortable very times throughout this interview when he makes a lot of these very valid points, right? He's saying, I don't know if your husband would protect you or not. I don't know that part of your relationship, but here's what I believe. We are in my house. And if some people were to break into this house to try to cause harm, I would expect that me and the other men here would stand up and protect you, even though you've come into my house being very hostile and with an agenda, which is very true. He would still protect her. And do I believe he would still protect her if they were in his house or if they were at a restaurant and some people came in, and even though she's being rude, she's being disrespectful, she's not giving him a fair shake, she's got an agenda. Do I believe that Andrew will still protect her? Yes. The things that Andrew teaches men to be is men like that. By the way, a feminist man with pink hair and low testosterone is not going to teach men to do that shit. That is probably the kind of man that's going to put the woman in front. Hey, you defend yourself. You know what I mean? I don't know her. A man like me, a man like the people that Andrew, a man like the people that Andrew teaches, right? Doesn't teach me. I mean, I learned some stuff from him. You know what I mean? But a man like that follows the things that he teaches would stand up for a woman, even if it's not his woman. And he tells her, I will stand up for you, even though you're being all of these things. So he puts her in her place, and she doesn't really know what it turned out. Don't get me wrong. She's sharp. That's why the BBC sent her. They probably sent their best person for the job, right? Who they think is, this person is aggressive. They're not going to take no shit. She's going to ask the hard questions, but fired back on them. Andrew's just too sharp.
Positive
you are
influence.
renowned.
I'm renowned
For offensive and controversial.
That's not why I'm renowned.
comments
I'm
about
actually renowned.
religion.
I'm actually renowned for helping young men, because we talk about there's a men's mental health crisis, and we pretend to care that men are upset. But as soon as I discuss men's issues, it's misogynistic. It doesn't have to be gender. Just because I believe men have a point of view and men have rights and men are allowed to think and believe and act a certain way that helps them internally, that doesn't mean it's anti-female. In fact, I believe it's actually pro-female. I think when a man is true to his influence and true to his essence, and he's good within himself, he's a positive influence in the world, and he's positive for the women around him.
So
just
why
because
are
I
so
discuss
many
men's
women-
issues, people say, oh, you're anti-woman. I'm not anti-woman, I love women.
Okay. I love that. That's another great point that he makes. If you notice a most confident man, if you look at a man that is taking care of business, that is working hard, that makes a time for his family, that goes to the gym, that cares about his self-image, that is confident, that is stoic, that is a person that raises the best kids. That is a person that loves and protects his kids and his family, his wife, his spouse, right? He makes a great point there. And again, we keep talking about this side, the left. If you pay attention, there's a big push for division of the family. I'm a Bible-believing man, and in the Bible it says that the first sign of evil is division. There's a clear agenda to divide the family, right? And when a man levels up, like we said here, he is stronger and better for his family. So that's a great point that he brought up.
There seems to have been a lot about your charity work.
Correct.
On your social
I've
media.
always done the charity work, but now I'm promoting it.
There seems to be a real shift.
Yeah.
I wonder what's behind that.
Well, I've always done the charity work. I've been doing the charity work for years. I believe that it's my legacy to leave a positive influence on the world, and I've been doing charity work for over 5 years. Post my incarceration, my unfair, unjust incarceration, may I add. Post that, I've made it more clear the charity work I'm doing. But this is, once again, very interesting. I spend $25 million a year feeding children, men, male children, and female children in Turkey, in Syria, in Iran, and Iraq. I literally spend $25 million a year feeding children, and I'm still the worst man in the world because 4 years ago I made a sarcastic comment.
Because some people would look at that and say, okay, so before you got money from attracting people to your website by making controversial comments, but that might have got you into trouble. And so now you're looking for a new market. You're looking for a new market of followers who are attracted by a different sort of persona.
I've always done the charity work, so that is obviously incorrect. And I have proof that I've always done the charity work, so you're wrong, firstly. I believe that if you have a lot of wealth, you should help people, and I'm helping people. I also think it's very, very interesting that you could not find another celebrity in the UK or anywhere else who's spending £25 million a year feeding children in war-torn countries. I'm doing that, and I've been doing that for a long time without even mentioning it. I never even said it. And now that I've said it, people are going to attack me for it and say that it's disingenuous. The person in Sudan who's eating the meal, do you think they believe it's disingenuous? No, I think they feel pretty good that Andrew Tate fed them. And to sit here and say that I'm a bad person now because I'm manipulating charity, because I'm using charity, I'm just trying to do good in the world. That's all I've ever been trying to do.
When women speak out against you online, disagree with what you say, they describe being bombarded with rape threats, with death threats.
First of all, I didn't know that he donates that much money to charity, right? Which is commendable. Another thing that is very commendable is the fact that he's been doing it for years and he didn't mention, he wasn't out there promoting like, hey, look, here's what I'm doing. I get the point that she's trying to make, right? She's trying to say, well, is it now that you're doing that because you got in trouble and stuff and you're trying to show this other side of you? And he says to her, no, I've been doing that. I just didn't mention it to people, right? And that's very commendable. But instead of focusing on, oh, really? You've been doing it for years. Since when? That's not her angle. Her angle is, oh, there must be a reason why you're doing it. All of a sudden, he tells her, it's not all of a sudden. I've been doing it. $25 million per year. Do you think those people that are getting that money, that food, think that there's an agenda behind it? Or do you think they're just grateful? Yes. I'd ask her the question, and they make him look like the bad guy. How many charities do you donate to? How many people have you fed in your life? How many people do you feed yearly? What about your husband? What about your family? Right? Now, here's the thing though. Andrew, if he asks those questions, they're going to make him out again to look like the villain. Oh, look at how he's attacking this person. But when she's attacking him with the same thing, it's not the same thing, right? It's okay for that to be the case. So anyways, I thought that was a good clip. Let's look at another one.
5 years ago on a video that got 300 views.
So what do you mean, being slightly more careful?
I'll give you an example. Some of the jokes I made 4 or 5 years ago on a YouTube channel that got 300 views, I would no longer make.
Like what?
Like the OnlyFans joke, the one you mentioned repeatedly. When she said, my man's car is my car. And then she said she did OnlyFans. And I said, what do you saw on OnlyFans? She said, my tits. And I said, well, those are your man's tits. As a joke, ha ha ha, everybody laughed. The fact that I could do that on a podcast 5 years ago and it only got 300 views, now I understand I'm the most influential man on the face of the planet. I would be more careful with certain things I say. That doesn't mean the things I originally said were genuinely out to harm people.
Do you really believe you're the most influential man on the face of the planet?
I'm the most Googled person on the planet.
Do you believe you're the most influential man on the face of the planet?
I'm the most Googled man on the planet.
I think we're done.
Notice her face after, right? So she asks him, she says, do you really think that you're the most influential man in the world? He says, I'm the most Googled person in the world. Then she tries to be firm again. Do you really think you're the most influential man in the world? He, stoic, says, I'm the most Googled man in the world. Almost like saying, well, that probably is. If I'm the most Googled man in the world, most Googled person in the world, probably is the case, but he stands his ground. She tries to be aggressive, stands his ground, tries to be, she's a bully. And a lot of this traditional media, mainstream media people, they're bullies, 100%. But you can't bully somebody who has a mental toughness of Andrew. So he stands his ground, and then look at her face when she says, I think we're done. That was classic. That was my favorite part of the interview, is looking at her face of being defeated at the end, realizing that, okay, I'm not getting nowhere with this guy. This guy's beating me, and there's no coming back from this. And again, at the end of the day, what this did here is it made it seem like what the BBC really is. It's just a biased organization that nobody knew anything about. Nobody cared, gave two shits about the BBC. He did indeed do them the favor. And I think anybody that follows Tate knows that they were not going to give him a fair shake, that these questions were going to be loaded questions, biased questions, but he handled it like a champ. I commend him. And hey, listen, Andrew, if you get to see this, if you want to get interviewed and get a serious interview with a podcast, I'd love to interview you, man. Hey, all we can do is take our shot, right? You never know, right? So anyways, the offer's out there. Appreciate you guys watching this video. I'll catch you guys on the next video. Take care.